All right, what's up, Trust Engine community, Mortgage Coach community? I've got my wingman, Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win Wine Win with me.
Oh, I'm looking for my fingers. You got this reverse mirror thing going on here. Good to be here.
All right, so Todd came down to meet with me. He's spending like 2 months in Venice?
2 months up in Venice.
2 months in Venice. We're having dinner tonight with Phil. Yeah, with Phil Jones, the author of Exactly What to Say. 2.2 million copies sold of this book. But we're having dinner with Phil today to sync up on Scriptapalooza, which is coming up in next week. Scriptapalooza is happening. And there's another big event happening that I want to make sure you guys know about. Also, I want to talk about just the value and importance of being an advisor, bringing creativity to the street right now. We've got Brian Hale to join us. Brian's putting on a training is it in a couple of weeks, Brian? What is your training?
Yeah, it's Thursday, June 8th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Cool. Well, we'll tell everybody about that. We'll put a link if you want to know more about it. But Brian, you know, your interview that I did, I don't know, we interviewed probably 2 weeks ago. It's going to release on the Trust Engine YouTube channel this week.
Great.
But there were a couple things you called out in that. You know, one, you called out the fact that, was it 2% of realtors are doing 90%?
More than 70. Actually, it's closer to 75% of all sales in America last year were handled by the top 2% of realtors or realtor teams. You know, a lot of people have the Dave Savage team, right? You know, kind of concept in real estate. Typically, those are folks doing more than 150 transactions a year or greater. The top 1.5% did 68% of all sales last year in America. That's just an amazing and somewhat shocking number.
It really is. And so we're going to talk about how can you get and build relationships with those folks.
Right.
Also, another big takeaway, I'm going to show an image on my screen right now. You shared this. You shared the fact that when you take all of Gen Z, millennials, and half of X, it's 2.5 times baby boomers. So guys, there's a tidal wave, as Brian put it, a tsunami coming at you. You want to put a little color around this slide?
Sure. Look, the short version of the slide is that, you know, while this year, certainly 2023 and last year, 2022, have been particularly difficult years, I think, for my money, at least, Dave, you know this, I've been doing this. I've been in the business for 40 years. These last 12 and probably the next 6 months have been the most difficult 18 months in my 40-year history. And remember, you know, I was in the middle of 2008, 2009, 2010, having been with Countrywide and, you know, ran their biggest division. And so this is far more difficult in my view. And so the long and short is that while now is very difficult, and part of what we're trying to do is help give people tools to get through, survive, and thrive in the current environment, the real message is that the next 5 or 10 years likely will be fabulous in our industry, simply because of demographics. And if you're smart enough, Dave, and I know you're a big proponent of this, to use data and tools that Trust Engine and others have available to you to identify who you're calling on and to build relationships with the right referral sources. The short version is, you know, I have a couple of sayings that I love that are favorites of mine. One, there's a big difference between calling on people who are in real estate and people who sell real estate. All right. A lot of people in real estate, millions of people are in real estate. The number of people who actually sell repetitive annuitant business is a very small percentage, and it's consolidating even further and faster, right? That shrinkage to the top is happening, particularly in this environment, because many agents who are on their own are seeing it makes sense to join one of these teams and become part of a team. So that consolidation will continue to grow. So if you're a loan officer, a producer of any kind in the mortgage business, and you're spending your time calling on the bottom 50% of real estate agents, they're in real estate, but they're not selling any significant amount of real estate. So one is identifying who you should be calling on and how and why. Two, coming to them with smart solutions, particularly today, to help them gain listings selling today, houses are flying off the market to the degree that they're for sale. The problem in the market today is not the speed of sale. It's the absence of homes for sale. It's the absence of listings because, 70+% of Americans have a rate on their house today below 4%. So for that guy to sell and move up to a 6.5 or a 7, it doesn't seem that attractive. And so what tools can we arm originators with to help their realtor referral clients, particularly the ones who actually sell and do real estate, help them gain more listings to create more inventory to deal with the buyers, even at these interest rate levels. And then I do believe rates will come down. I'm not as bullish as to when. I think this is going to be a very difficult second half of this year. But my personal opinion, 24 and beyond, either because of the tsunami of population, of home buying aged population, that's 2.5 times bigger than the baby boomers like me ever were. The future is incredibly bright in terms of demand. Now, what tools do you have to put these deals together, to find the right referral sources, to use data, to use smart tools and thoughtful sales strategies to help drive their business so you can thrive in your business? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my thesis.
It makes lots of sense. Todd, any comments or questions?
Well, I mean, I think it's just super smart, right? So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're predicting pain for the next 6 months. And so everyone who's watching this, right? Buckle up.
I'm normally known as a pretty upbeat, positive guy. And I am, except I'm also a realist.
Well, but I feel like there's a fortune to be made if you're spending the time, even in this market, connecting with people, building relationship.
Yes.
And so I love the idea of tools. So I know one of the tools is the class that we're going to put the link down below so you can all jump in and come to Brian's class. What's another tool or two that you recommend that mortgage folks bring to their realtor prospects and partners?
Well, I would say 2 things. One, and I can let Dave speak to this, is the products that Dave and his team put out in terms of both presentation value, but also in terms of data management and mining and finding the right people to try to do business with and to target, and today, I mean, a big challenge today is I think a lot of very successful originators that have been successful historically are finding themselves kind of downtrodden a little bit because they haven't been marketing and looking to broaden their referral network at the levels that they perhaps should have been over the last year. And so a lot of people feel a sense of catch up, plus all the folks who are purely focused on refis are now throwing everything in the kitchen sink at these agents or referral sources to try to gain any amount of purchase volume. So I get that it's tough. So one is make sure we're calling on the right people. That's number one. Number two, on the tail end, one of the things we're going to talk about in the training seminar is a couple of ideas on how to defend your pipeline of existing in-process loans from the trigger lead crowd. We all know in this business that, if I can't tell you how many originators have talked to me about, literally, I pull the customer's credit bureau while I'm taking an app over Zoom, and the customer's getting phone calls from my competitors because they bought that trigger lead that just got sent to them, and they're trying to intercede in the middle of an application, right? So we're going to use a couple of trigger lead defense strategies that, I've seen work from before there were trigger leads. Remember, there's always been competition, right? There's always been somebody trying to pull your pipeline away from you. Trigger leads accelerate the process. Social media accelerates the process. So how do you defend your in-process pipe with your good referral sources so they're not confused about what's happening? And secondly, how do you proactively work with your buyer, your customer, the homeowner, the home buyer, to help arm them to defend themselves against, and by the way, I don't have anything inherently.
Brian, did we lose you? I think we might have lost Brian.
Yeah.
I was
Hey, Brian, you are kind of skipping in and out on us right now. All right, guys. Well, while Brian is getting his internet back on track, I want to bring a few things to light. So number one, when Brian talked about data and the importance and the value of data, and you being able to get to the consumer at the right time, at the right place, you need to know what's under the water. I love this metaphor of a fisherman, and every mortgage professional is a fisherman right now. And there are all these things happening underneath the water, like, first of all,
Dave, I'm back.
Okay, no problem.
Can you hear me?
Let me, I'm sharing a concept. Feel free to jump back in right after this, but I came in
Okay,
to
go ahead.
save you.
Yep.
So I'm kind of sharing a vision of data and how data can be valuable in this market. So like, when someone starts getting some desire to sell their home and buy a new home, you don't know about it. Like, Zillow might know about it because they're using their app a little more. Redfin might know about it. They start watching TV, they start talking to friends, they start driving around in neighborhoods. This is all hidden from you guys. Like, a realtor doesn't know it until they either call them or they start doing behaviors that we can observe, like going to an open house. And so here's the deal. Most of the reasons why people are selling their homes right now, this is a slide from the interview we did with Denise today. It's, they're getting married, they're having kids, they have a debt structure that they don't love, they get divorced, someone dies, they get deployed. And right now, most databases don't have that data. So one of the things we do at Trust Engine is we make sure that you're at the right place at the right time. And here's one question I have for all you guys. Brian's going to be doing this training on seller buy downs, but you tell me, if you're trying to show a consumer the most affordable way to buy a home, or you're trying to show someone who's thinking about selling their home, strategies to buy their next home, this is not the way you do it. This is not advice. And so one of the things, we're going to provide Brian with some training tools for MortgageCoach, some seller buy down analysis that help him do that. But Brian, I was just showing this because one, you cut out, and two,
Right.
I thought it kind of put a visualization around, data. Any
Very
thoughts
smart
on that?
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, I couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, I find it interesting, this slide right here with the bait shop and the reasons that people buy houses hasn't changed materially, right? It's that's why people have gone out and bought houses since the end of World War II, right? In the process. The question is, how much more difficult and how much more confusing is it today? And look, I think there's two sides of this. It's not just the seller's buy down. Remember, and I know you guys know this, if that seller decides to list and sell their house, in 95% of the cases, they just became a buyer, right? So it's the ability to help them go buy their next house. And so the opportunity for a twofer deal here goes up dramatically. And whether or not it's buy downs or whether or not it's some other tool that people have or an idea on how to think about this, sellers are frozen in place. I mean, it's like a seller strike that's underway. And buyers, there's a fair amount of demand still at these interest rates, but in truth, there's just simply not enough inventory and not enough transactions to be sold. I think it was in Atlanta just 2 weeks ago, I saw data that houses are selling off the market in under 2 weeks. The problem is there's just not enough houses to sell, ergo starving the market, both on the real estate side and the mortgage side. And so, and by the way, just forgive the dress today and the hat. As Dave knows, I just came off. I was fly fishing the Flathead River in Montana this morning because my older son is getting married in Glacier National Park tomorrow afternoon. So I took advantage to go out and get some fishing done. So please forgive the generally less than professional look on the attire here today. But I feel really passionate about this. That look, I'm a believer in social media. I'm a believer in a lot of things people are doing today. But I think in order to survive now, you have to get face to face with your best referral clients, help them with their listings and sellers as well as their buyers, and then stay engaged materially through the entire process. So as I started with saying before when I froze, I apologize, so that people don't get picked off in the middle of a transaction by some sales pitch that may or may not come to fruition. And so we're going to be talking about all of that in our training. And I know, Dave, look, as long as I've known you, you've been working on helping people understand strategy. So I know you get the value of that.
Well, I want to unpack that in a minute with you. Real quick, John Powers just commented, we have this streaming in our Facebook group. We also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we will have links to everything down below in a minute. But John Powers just said, great content, Brian. So great job, brother. I know you mentioned an extended malaise the rest of 2023, but do you expect any substantial relief in rates with a combo of debt ceiling deal and expected positive, the 6/10 CPI report? Seems like two potential catalysts could land at once. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So once again, I have an opportunity to be more bearish than a lot of people. I was just listening when I was driving back from fishing to the gal who is PIMCO, the big bond funds government relations person, and she laid out what she thinks is going to happen in this debt deal. First of all, it's going to get resolved simply because they have to, right? It's not because anybody's better angels somehow have taken over in Washington, D.C. and things are going to be great, right? So without regard to any politics, a pox on both sides, in my view, but they'll get this done. Here's actually going to be the problem. The Fed has not been issuing debt in anticipation of this coming disaster, God forbid if it were to happen. So once a deal gets done this weekend, Monday, Tuesday, whenever it is, the Fed has a backlog of issuance of government debt to get out into the market. So think of it this way. They're going to flood the market with US government securities. That flood will squeeze out mortgage-backed securities. And they'll still trade, but the price, the spread will widen for some period of time. I'm not a bond expert, just other than the fact I've been doing this for 40 years. Here's what I know. If the government is borrowing money, they're the first hogs at the trough. So they get the best deal and they get the first bite on all of that capital. After that comes mortgage backs and other related items. And so my personal opinion is that once it gets solved, I believe rates could worsen temporarily because of the spread issue. They might get a little bump the first day, but as these other government issuances come into the market, it could be not positive for the mortgage market. That said, that will eventually normalize. I do think inflation is coming down, but not at the speed at which the Fed can begin to really become more accommodative. I think the best we can wish for is a pause, conceivably still a raise in rates somewhere in the future here. And I think, there's a lot of people that keep focusing on these dates. I believe rates are going to come down. I just disagree on the exact timing. I think it's going to be later than people want. And I just got off the phone, Dave, with a CEO of a company you would know well. They're a client of yours. And their attitude right now is batten down the hatches, because while it may be materially better in the second half, it may not be. And they'd rather bet on it not being and be pleasantly surprised. And so I just think we're not out of this yet. And last but not least, for prognosticating rates, I don't think the improvement's going to be a straight line. I think you could see some, just like January and February was like false hope for the whole industry. Rates came down, margins came up, locks came up, apps went up, and then we got punched in the face by all the other things going on in the world. And so, and today, there was a big prognostication made around the May 10th date. Well, CPI came down, and today we're 50 basis points higher in rate than we were on May 10th.
Yeah, a lot of talk.
So it's just not straight line. And I think, look, I'm an optimist. And as you and I've talked about, Dave, I think the future of our industry is so bright, we should be wearing sunglasses. I do believe that between now and the first quarter, maybe early second quarter next year, people have to work their butts off, be very smart, don't do dumb things, and work, baby, W-O-R-K. I think this is where you have to work and earn the business from your referral clients and help them.
So I think Todd and I completely agree with everything you just said. The only thing I would add is you need to work, and you need to work smart. And
Yes,
working smart means you need to be bringing strategies to consumers that help solve the problems. And one of the most valuable strategies are buy downs, being a master at buy downs. And so you've got a 2-hour class coming up that's really designed to help mortgage professionals master this strategically. Would you mind putting some, voice to words and color around what people can get if they show up for your training?
Yeah. Look, let me just start by, I had somebody the other day say to me, do you really think buy downs is the answer? No, it's an answer in the right way, the right people, the right sellers. You don't know this about me, Dave, but I'm actually a carpenter by trade. My dad was a carpenter. My grandfather was a carpenter. I got a lot of tools. Not every tool is for the same job, right? So to me, our business is the same thing. This is about having a toolbox of tools. I know, look, that's how you built your entire career, is having a toolbox of great tools and products to help people do their business. And so I think it's a tool. I also think it's massively misunderstood. I also think, by the way, when I was an originator, when woolly mammoths walked the face of the earth a long time ago, I was an originator, but I used to close 1,000 transactions a year. And to be blunt, I did an immense number of buy downs, because remember, when I started, rates were 15.5. They immediately went to 17.5, right? So buy downs were really material then. They're back because of what's going on. There's no premium pricing in the market, all those reasons. They're back, but I'm shocked at the number of really good originators who don't know the facts, who don't know how to calculate one, who don't know what happens. What if you do a 2-year buy down, a 2-1-0 buy down, or a 1.5-0 buy down, and you refinance, the rates do come down, and you refinance the house before you've used up the buy down funds? You'd be shocked at the number of people that don't know what happens to those funds, right, in the process. So we're going to talk about facts. We're going to talk about the difference between present value buy downs, meaning just pay more points to get a lower interest rate, like a lot of the home builders are, or temporary buy downs, the multitude of temporary buy downs, the actual math behind the multitude of temporary buy downs, and then last but not least, how to market and explain them to both a seller and a buyer and your agent, and to include your agent in those conversations by way of reinforcing the agent's relationship with the prospective listing customer and the buyer, and work through these things together so you're conversant with the facts. What I found of managing an awful lot of salespeople in my career is that salespeople tend to avoid products that they're not masters of. They don't want to talk about it because they're concerned the customer's going to ask some question they don't know the answer to, and it makes them look unprofessional. So we're going to try to clear those things up: technical, tactical training, the differences of types, the calculations of them, when and how to position them, how to market them, how to talk about them, and we're going to throw in some additional trigger lead defense strategies along with that. So I don't know if that helps.
Sounds like a winner to me. Sounds like a winner to me. And I can say this, I've just watching, my own team, and then watching, all the originators I'm talking to around the country. When they're doing a buy down, it's no longer, hey, I'm comparing you to the lender down the street. It's separating you out. If you're a manager listening, price exceptions are down, if non-existent. And so I think it's just such a great opportunity. If you're going to take that deep of a dive over a 2-hour class, I'm in, and anyone I know should be in.
Yeah. And this is something my push to the community is, not only should you be in, but you should have your team come to this. Like, it is a incredibly valuable tool, and not just this year, like providing creative finance strategies to help get people that have an interest rate of 2, 3, or 4%, and to get them to say, you know what, you should sell your home and buy a new home, or, hey, you know what, you should rent out this home and buy the home you want. Like, that's not going away. Like, that might be a decade, but it's definitely going to be the next 3 to 5 years that the originator, and by the way, it's not a loan officer, the mortgage advisor that can deliver advice, not price. The future belongs to them. You agree with that, Brian?
Yes. Yeah, totally. By the way, if you properly structure and articulate a 1.5 buy down to a buyer or a seller, it's my view that the vast majority of your competitors cannot price against it because they don't fully understand it. And so you move off the price discussion and you move on to the buy and close discussion. which is really what it's all about, right? We're going to give you a couple of other ideas on how to move that discussion along. Look, we know that in the current rate environment, ARMs are beginning to increase in market share. And we know that ARMs start at a certain rate. They have a 2% cap. They have a 5% life cap. They have blah, 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 blah. If I showed up and said, look, I got a new product for you, Dave, and you're an originator at the street level today, and that product offers you a starting rate in the 4s, a 1% per year payment cap, a 2% lifetime cap, an ability that if you refinance it, you get some of your money back applied to your payoff, and then it automatically converts to a fixed rate mortgage in the 3rd year. You know, would you have a product that you'd want to market? My general view is yes. And that's what I just described. Was a 1.5 buy down.
I love this. And, you know, I want to play, it's a little less than a minute, about a 50-second clip from an interview that I did 2 days ago. This is an interview. Last year was her 2nd year in the business, so 2022. She did $53 million in production. Wow. in Denver, wow. Colorado. So going into her 3rd year, and I want to share a clip where she talks about what she did and how it helped win a realtor. And, you know, she's going to, you know, mention Mortgage Coach in this, but where she mentions Mortgage Coach, I want you to think seller buy down strategy. Like, if you are truly an advisor and you deliver it in a unique and compelling way, this is not only a way to, you know, get listings off the fence and moving up, but guys, there's never been a better time to recruit realtors. So let's watch this little clip for a minute. Brian, get your impressions, and then we'll wrap up this Facebook Live. Here we go.
Great.
I was going after this huge, one of the top agents in Denver. And I had been trying since I was an assistant, I had been trying to get this person. And finally, the poor girl gave me a break and was like, Lord, like, here you go, take this one lead. And I took the lead and I did a Mortgage Coach. And I was just like, you know what, why not? I'm going to CC the agent on here. And then that's when the agent picked up the call and she's like, are you serious? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, what, Mortgage Coach? And I was like, you're the top agent. You've never seen this before? And she's like, absolutely not. She's like, this is amazing. She's like, would you be able to do this with all my buyers? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that's so cool. And again, in her head, I think she was thinking, I'm up all night creating this massive presentation with all these numbers and graphs. And I got her business and she's one of my top agents now.
So guys, it's the combination of the strategy. By the way, do you like that, Brian?
Oh my God. Look, it's, you know, that's what, first of all, the fact that she's only in business 2 years, I think that's an advantage. I've been doing some keynote speaking at president's clubs. I'm going down next month to Aruba to give a speech to one of my clients. And I was in a president's club last spring, 50 top reps of that company. Not one person in the room could calculate a buy down. And so I think to some degree, those of us who've been around a while are locked in by a little bit of old think, and we forgot some of those tools. And so I just love hearing her say, wow, I put this out there, and the agent was like, wow, could you do this for all my clients? Yeah, I probably could. But, yeah. Wow, what a testimonial to your team, Dave.
Well, that particular originator, that mortgage advisor, has a lot of buy downs. And so I will create some kind of anonymous buy downs that you can use in your training. And I'm sure you're going to do an incredible job of teaching people the back end and teaching people how to use these as sales tools. Todd, anything else you want to say before you go into wrap up mode?
No, I do think that you have a great point there, Brian, that I think all of those of us who've been in the business for a long time, we've got that curse of knowledge. And so I would just encourage you to think about what Brian just said and realize, maybe do you need, as an experienced originator, to just take a step back and put on that thinking cap and that curiosity mode and be more like her.
Yeah. So guys, this webinar coming up it's not a free webinar, because Brian's putting in a lot of time in a training. It is, what is it, like $120 some odd, Brian?
It's $129.
Yep.
And you can go up on LinkedIn, register for it. Yep. It's an investment in your time and in your future. And look, Dave, to kind of just add, look, I think I think, what you've been evangelizing for many years around training and using tools. I don't know if both of you would agree, but it's been my experience that the most successful mortgage originator experts, advisors in the industry continuously invest in learning and in educating themselves. And it's what makes them good. And you can tell this gal that you just showed embrace that from day one.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. And there is a discount link. Brian was kind enough to give the trust engine community a discount, and I think it takes it from $123 down to $99. So
Right, 129 down to 99, correct.
99. So for $100, you could get a 2-hour training, highly recommended from both Win by Noon, Trust Engine, Mortgage Coach. I personally will be attending this and checking it out, and I recommend you guys do too. Link down below. I'll also put a link in savageinsights.com. So you go to savageinsights.com. There'll be a link to this. Brian, any closing thoughts before we wrap it?
No, other than to thank both of you gentlemen. I can't thank you enough for the support and letting people know about this in your networks. If there's ever obviously anything I can ever do. And look, this will be the beginning of a series of trainings that we intend to do to try to add value back into the market. And again, Dave, both of you guys, I can't thank you enough for doing it. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody watching today. So thanks.
All right. Take care. You good?
No, always great.
All
Anytime I
right.
get to hang out here.
Take
just
care,
like-
Brian. Give me
all
a
right.
fist bump, buddy.
All right,
Give me a
guys.
Fist bump.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
care,
This
David.
is a
Bye-bye.
wrap. Take care.